Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast, the original Alien and Predator podcast. This is Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks, and joining me are my fellow stranded colonial marines or stranded predators, depending on which side of the fence we want to sit on for this episode.
Do I get the bandana?
Well, do you really want the bandana given what happens to the guy?
That's debatable, and we will have that debate.
Or the Predator. It's got one.
So who are you? Who are you guys?
I am Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop, as you may know me if you're on our forums.
Eric Adams, aka Xenomorphine. It's there. Right there.
If you are watching the video version, it is there on the bottom of our video, on our visuals, sorry, should I say.
Yes.
This is episode 176, and it is our final episode of 2023.
Whoo! Right.
Shit year for me, in general.
I gotta be honest, it's been a rough one for me too.
Eric, you been able to eat this year?
Marginally, yes. On a diet of toast.
Oh, man. Eric living in World War II Britain down there.
Yeah.
Is it beans and toast?
Rations.
That's what you guys like over there, right?
Diabetic.
Isn't that a British thing?
Can you not have Heinz?
I don't know. It's not my bit. Yeah, I eat things. Yes.
Okay. I hate beans on toast. I'm a spaghetti hoops kind of guy, which I assume is all strange to you, Adam.
No, it's called SpaghettiOs over here. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But on toast.
Oh, on toast. Yeah, that's pretty weird. That is definitely a British idea.
It might be an.
I mean, we have our strange ideas over here too, but.
Well, no, everybody. I mean, beans on toast is very common over here. Yeah. Anyway, so
subject of our broadcast.
Indeed.
Yeah, breakfast.
Signaling.
Well,
episode 176.
With it being the last episode of the year, that means we're going to be talking about something very specific. What do you think it's going to be?
My favorite.
Indeed. We are talking something very specifically AVP. Because as I say every year, there is very little crossover content these days. It tends to be Alien or Predator. So to make sure we do actually get to talk some crossover, the last episode of the year for the last, 5-6 years?
Yeah, it's become a little tradition for us. Yeah.
Will be an AVP story. Last year, we ended the year starting the Rage War and then continued it on through the start of the year, right, rather than doing one book per year, which I think was an idea, but, we decided to just crack on and do the entire series. For this year, I gave the boys two choices. What we're talking about now, which is AVP Duel, or AVP Deadliest of the Species. We went for Duel.
Yeah. I mean, I still have never read Deadliest of the Species, and you just told me before we started recording, Aaron, that you've only read it once. So it's something I really want to do. It's something we'll get to eventually, but
it might be next year.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. But with how busy I've been, a 2-issue comic sounded nice.
Yeah, compared to 10, 12 issues, the Deadliest of the Species is. But that's a very infamous and wild comic that will be interesting to talk about, should we say? But yeah, let's aim for that one next year.
Sounds good to me.
Before we do start talking Duel, though, with it being the last episode of the year, did just want to do maybe a year in review kind of section. We don't have to talk about everything that's come out, but we can talk about the notable ups and the notable downs of the releases that we've seen this year. So, what about you guys? Any noticeable highs from the products that we've had this year?
It feels like Marvel is moving in the right direction. So that's been a highlight of the year for me. I've really enjoyed the newer issues they've been putting out compared to some of the first ones, especially on the Alien side of things. So yeah, that's been good to see more of that. I'm looking forward to that next year. I'm really hoping for AVP Comics to finally start under Marvel next year. Unfortunately, pretty bare bones year for Titan. I don't think we really got like how many books, Aaron? Like less than 5. It's like less than 3, maybe, right?
Did
We
we
got
have the
Bishop
anthologies this year?
just barely. No, those
No
were
anthologies last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we've had. Well, I don't think Bishop is even general release yet. I think
Maybe
that's
not.
this month. Yeah, I think that's this month. Was Vasquez was last year, end of last year as well, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah. Pretty
F-
slimmest year for Titan I can remember since
well,
they had the license, but they did just come out with that Where's Waldo book that I saw your review on. So
yes, which was actually surprisingly quirky and fun for what it is. Considering how I felt about Titan last year, I wasn't massively upset about there not being as much out this year.
Enemy of
But
My Enemy was this year, right?
was that? Yeah, that might have been February, March time. Actually,
Yeah.
that was okay. I'm actually quite enjoying Bishop. I'm about 100
Oh.
pages into it, and I'm
Oh.
surprised at how much I'm enjoying it.
Oh, that's good.
Eric, what about you? Has there been anything in particular this year that you've been enjoying?
It's mostly just been anticipation for the TV show and film, really. Not
And
anything.
nobody said Dark Descent. How have none of you said Dark
Oh my
Descent?
God, you're right.
Yes. I
That
thought
was a really
last year,
good game,
yes.
but I haven't really returned to it, and I should now that they've added New Game Plus. But yeah, um,
I
good
started
year
to,
for.
and they patched it, and I thought, no, I've got to reload all from the beginning.
Really, you should still be able to play where you left off, even with the patch.
I don't like to risk it. It's often a corrupted thing, so I just start over.
Eric superstitions. Fair. Dark Descent has been a huge high for me this year. I really, 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 really fucking enjoyed that game. I nearly finished a second playthrough, on hard, whatever the next difficulty up is. I'm on the last level. I literally got there yesterday. I did have a bit of a break between playing it again because of this year for me. Unfortunately, work is sucking a lot of the life out of me. And that affects me when I'm home. But so I haven't really finished that all off. But that week off when the game came out, I just had such a fucking blast with it. I've really enjoyed talking to Tebow, Claudel after the game came out. That was a great interview, and we had some damn good AVP Extinction coverage as well for the 20th anniversary.
Yeah, 2003. That's still probably my favorite interview we've done this year. I mean, they're all fun, so don't feel bad, Brian or Tebow, but like that, just chatting with all those guys about that game that was really core for us growing up. It was a really fun podcast, and it felt like an opportunity for them to all reconnect as well. So
yeah. And speaking of podcast specifically stuff, I thought it was a real blast and a treat and a pleasure and an honor to talk to Carl Toop, who was the principal Aliens warrior performer on Aliens. As far as I'm aware, that is his first podcast appearance, his first podcast interview, his first publicized interview about his time on Aliens. So it was an absolute treat to get to be the ones responsible for that.
And you solved the mystery in that?
Remind me.
About whether it was a publicity shot or was a film
thing
with him grabbing Pharaoh, so we know it was part of the film. I mean, I always thought that, but it's always been one of those things in fandom. Was it real or live or Memorex? So yeah.
So if you haven't listened to any of those things we've just mentioned, go back and have a listen to them. We always try and put our best into all these interviews and podcasts we do. What's up, Adam?
Another big thing, we got Prey on Blu-ray.
We did get Prey on Blu-ray, although to be fair, not the best in terms of features.
I know, but still, just the fact that I can have that on a steelbook on my shelf in 4K, watch it in the best way possible. Commentary, yeah, they could have had a few more deleted scenes from what I'd heard, but and of course, special features are a little bare bones. I'm hoping Oppenheimer's release will change that a bit, but it was still great. I mean, we didn't know if that was just going to be streaming exclusive forever, so to get that was a relief for us.
Even there, we know that Disney, for no apparent reason, has removed their the TV show project of Willow. They just did it without warning, so things can just disappear without warning.
Well, as of recording this podcast as well, a big thing over the weekend was the removal of Discovery stuff from Sony's platforms.
Yes. Yeah.
So I have a feeling that ownership and digital sort of ownership is going to become a thing again over the next coming months. I imagine there's going to be some serious noise made about that soon.
I think it'll be an increasingly important topic. I mean, even like you said, for media preservation, the entertainment industry is huge. And if someone worked on a project and then suddenly the only way of viewing that is gone, I mean, that just really sucks. Now, streaming does have serious conveniences, and so I do think it will still be dominant. But I really hope that some companies see things in the long run, and that maybe it becomes more of a collector geared market, right? Similar to how vinyl has had kind of a resurgence. So yeah, I do think that'll be an interesting topic going into next year.
Uh-huh.
I think it'll also be a really big year for us next year, with everything that's coming. New Alien movie, the first we've had in more than 5 years, I guess. Longer.
2017?
Yeah. So first one we haven't had from Ridley Scott in a long time. So it's an exciting time. Alien series will start filming again. We're also hyped about that. Sounds like there's some wacky ideas going on there. So be curious to see how those come to life. But yeah, I think also, I always focus on the anniversaries, but 45th anniversary of Alien, I think it would be silly of them not to capitalize on that. So I think it'll be a big year for Alien, and I'm still curious about Predator. Prey was super successful. What's going on there? So
I've no doubt they are working on something. There has been teasers, shall we say, and comments. And I have no doubt that something's happening. Just don't click on anything from somebody like Small Screen or who's that other bullshit website. We got this covered.
All of them.
Giant freaking robot.
Giant freaking robot. Yeah, just
bad ones.
Don't click on anything from them.
Many.
Because I think Small Screen has been claiming that they're developing a World War II one at the minute.
Yeah, like Wind Talkers and stuff.
I mean, they might be. They might be. A stopped clock is right twice a day. But we'll see. I am looking forward to next year. Very much looking forward to Romulus. I have a lot of faith in Fede Alvarez. More apprehensive about the TV show, but I'm very much looking forward to Romulus.
Also, games. I mean, Servios is still, as far as we know, working on something. We found out that a new project is coming from Cold Iron Studios, which we're keeping our eye on.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so games be coming.
True. Right, shall we crack on and talk Duel?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we're talking AVP Duel, which is, of course, the probably best known as the debut of the PredAlien, and well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's its most notable aspect, isn't it? Seen right behind Eric on his fancy pants new webcam thingy machine with
AI generated background.
Yes. NVIDIA's new fancy webcam thingy machine,
which is covers by Chris Warner. Both of those covers, it's a 2-issue run, and both covers are stunning. Yeah, absolutely stunning. They make a very nice, cohesive sort of wraparound piece. And his rendition.
Let us see the full thing, Eric, right there. Yeah.
Without getting out of the whole screen.
I would say, those are some of the more well-known and iconic comic covers for the early days of AVP, for sure.
Indeed. Well, you say early days, this actually came out in
1995.
March and April of 1995. Yeah. It is, I think, it's hard to classify because a lot of the later shorts sort of got merged into other series. So I think it's technically the third or fourth AVP story that wasn't melded into either into the first run or into AVP War, into the technically the third run. I think Deadliest of Species is actually the second. But yeah, so it's like the
Well, wait,
third.
wasn't the theory of alien propagation, that was one where it was removed from book one, wasn't it, and made its own little thing, even though originally it was part of book one, that one.
I
Where
don't think it was
just set on the
original.
alien world.
No, I think that came out as a separate thing and then was put in book one.
Oh, so that was even earlier then. Okay.
Mm.
I thought it was originally. Yeah.
But I'm talking specifically AVP stories here. So we had the original AVP in 1990, and then Randy Stradley writes like an epilogue to AVP that gets sucked into the various trades. He writes a prologue called AVP 2, which gets sucked into the first part of AVP War. And then we had Blood Time, I think it was. Blood Time, which is kind of like a prequel to this, I guess.
Because the main predator in this one, Light Stepper, is prominent in Duel.
Blood Time introduces Light Stepper. We get to see the injury that is very prominent on him in Duel. So I think this one's actually perhaps Randy Stradley's third AVP series. And I really fucking like this comic. I always have, as far as I can remember. I have some of the same sort of color problems that I do with a lot of the comics from the early 90s. In that it's not my favorite visually, because of the coloring work. But narratively speaking, I really, really find this comic satisfying. Randy Stradley does a fantastic job of weaving a cohesive narrative across all of his AVP stories. There is a lot of threads that make it genuinely feel like a cohesive, bigger tapestry. Even simple things in this, like the Briar Wolf. It's a very small moment in this, but it ties into also a very small moment from the original run. It's just a mention. They only mention the name like Briar Wolf once or twice in the original AVP. You get to see it in the artwork, but you don't necessarily know that's what it is until you see it said point blank in Duel. And like we mentioned, Light Stepper, he was introduced in a short before this, and then shows up here, then goes on to show up again in War. So there's lots of little moments that tie it together that Randy Stradley is very, very, very good at. And I think it does a lot to make this comic quite satisfying. What about you guys? Short thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed this comic. I don't think I had read it for a long time. You were asking me how I read it earlier, Aaron, and I read it with the old Dark Horse Omnibus here, Volume 1, which looks like
same over here. Yeah, I grabbed the Essentials off the bookshelf. I was like, I wonder if it was collected in there as well. It was not. It was not in.
I don't know. Can you get it right now? Like,
what do you mean? As in, is it
is
available?
Is it available? Stuff? Has Disney re-released it under Marvel?
I believe so. I mean, I'll have a look while you're talking.
Okay, but yeah, I really enjoyed this as well. This was it felt like one of those earlier AVP comics. It tied right into the original. I thought the Marine unit was pretty cool and interesting, and the vibe there even kind of felt like Predator a lot. There was a lot of good POV shots from the Predators. It kind of turned things on its head with them finding a Predator derelict ship, I guess, instead of an alien one, and it kind of shows they were expecting to find an alien one. So as far as a short 2-issue run, there was a lot here that it had going for it. The design of the PredAlien was awesome. The action was great. And I just love the ending so much. And we'll get to that. But overall, yeah, I loved it. And revisiting it was really cool. How about you, Eric?
The outlier again. No, I didn't dislike it. Didn't really like it. It felt more like the magic of the original AVP, the first comic, is that it's got this wonderfully cinematic tone. It's structured like a film. This one felt a bit more like a generic kind of G.I. Joe thing. It didn't feel like you could make a straight adaptation of this into a film. It's a very short story. None of the killings are very inventive, and it's just a very A to B gauntlet run thing. Didn't find any of the characters really memorable. They were more like muscle-bound caricatures as opposed to the Aliens template of like relatable normal people in proportion. These looked more like Dutch's team out of Predator, but they weren't really like distinguishable as characters. It all felt very much like red shirts. So yeah, it's a small adventure. There is a PredAlien in it, but it doesn't really do anything a normal alien wouldn't. It grows weirdly quick. It grows literally under a truck as they're trundling along. Yeah, it's a generic story. There's nothing wrong with it, but I wasn't wowed by it. But it was a mid-90s two-issue thing, so I mean, it's very much of that 90s comic era, if that makes sense.
Eric, always the outlier. Where's the
Hey,
enthusiasm,
at least he didn't hate
This
it.
is where we get the friction in our debates.
True, at least he didn't hate it. I don't think I could have stomached your dislike in this one completely.
No, I don't dislike it. It works, but it's like it's nothing special. The cover art behind me is actually the best thing about this. I love that comic art.
No,
The
disagree
interior art,
there.
it's like it goes along. There's an interesting sort of truck design they have, which again is very
The
G.I.
ATV.
Joe like. It's sort of APC-ish, but like the rear of it, it's clearly like a World War II truck kind of design when the tarpaulin is over the top of it, but there's no way for the Marines to actually get inside it, which I thought was a design flaw.
You know, it kind of
But
reminded
yeah,
me of the
it's
Prometheus rover
nice.
a little bit. Like it seemed like a
Kind of,
military
yeah.
Prometheus rover, the wheels especially.
In outline, I can see that, yes. So,
Very wide.
in terms of credit for artwork, then Javier Saltares did the line work for this, who would later go on to do the 2009, 2010 Predator relaunch. He did the artwork for the short story that was in the Free Comic Book Day sort of prologue, and he did the artwork on the main run, Pray to the Heavens. And the color work on this one was done by Jim Sinclair, who also did Aliens Cargo, which is Cargo the one with...
That is a
Cargo.
favorite story of mine.
Cargo's not the one with the pig, is it?
No, that's just Pig.
Yeah.
The
Is
one with the
Cargo...
pig is just called Pig.
Is Cargo the one with... I don't remember what Cargo is.
It's the one where it's a single guy. He's on like a literally like a water-based ship, and he's left facing an alien, and he has to somehow outwit it. And I really like it.
I don't remember Cargo at all. I'm going to have to revisit that after we're done
You should
here.
do a review of it.
Yeah.
It's a good comic.
I don't remember that either.
And
Because
Alien.
everything on the ship is powered down. There's no weapons, nothing. So he has to be really inventive.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to read that after this. Alien, of course, is one we were struggling to remember which one was which in an earlier episode. That's the one with the tribal alien. And Sinclair also did Predator Strange Brew. I think that's how you pronounce that, isn't it? The one with the Predator Gumbo. And Justice League of America versus Predator. And he would also go on to color War, which was the next major series after Deadliest of Species. I have already sort of said I wasn't that keen on the colouring in this, and also not terribly keen on the colouring in War, to be honest. I enjoyed the prologue. Oh my god, they were so stupid with the names. It was named Aliens versus Predator 2, I think. But then it became the prologue or part 1 of AVP War. And I can't see who that was coloured by, actually. But I like that substantially more than the bulk of AVP War's colouring.
I think the coloring works. It just feels pretty dated for both War and for this. So it makes me hope. I'll always hope. Yep, for that. The coloring was redone for the first issue of the original AVP for the collector's edition of AVP, the game 2010. So to there's an idea for you, Marvel. If anyone's listening,
just get Wes Dioza, or however you pronounce it, to recolor
the older ones. Yeah,
yeah. Now it is a shame because there are, I think, quite a few iconic pages and panels in this, in Duel, that is ruined by, I think, the more boring colors. I'm sorry to say, it's panels like this,
boring colors. What do you mean?
Like this one where the background's just is just lines.
So it's just
just a flat color with lines, and I find that very dull. And I think that's
more to do with the penciling, isn't it? Because you're not drawn anything to put in.
Well, I suppose in some regards, yes. That is a very nice panel.
I mean, you can still just do a lot with color. I think we just need to do an article on our site, comparing the original AVP color to that remaster of that issue 0, and having it be an appeal. Look what can be done here, everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a problem I have with some comics, is very dull backgrounds, when it is just a flat color. I find that so disinteresting, and I think it's very much a 90s thing, like Adam or Eric, you were saying. And that's my main criticism, because I do think there are a lot of gorgeous iconic panels in the in Duel, the PredAlien in particular. Yes, I don't think it does anything massively different, which is, it's fine. I'd rather it just look imposing and cool than barf can eggs down people's throats. But there are some great profile shots and some great splash pages of it in here. Shall we just jump straight into the PredAlien? Shall we jump straight into this?
Well, just before we do, just to dovetail from what you just said, there are some things that I can tell were scripted, probably by Stradley, I think, is the writer, isn't it? He's clearly scripted them for money shots, but in the actual execution, they're not quite there. There's this scene when all the aliens appear. There's little, I think there's a panel of them sort of coming out of sand, which I think would be really cool to see as a visual on film. You'd see it's coming like that scene with Newt when it's coming out the water and the water's dripping off it. It's such a beautiful potential for a visual with an alien coming out of sand. But here it's very sort of almost blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of money shots that by different artists or something, they would have been handled differently. But here there's the potential for what was written. It's not quite there.
I think
unfortunate.
I think you're right. I think there's some things in here that are really strong conceptually that could have been shown in a bit more detail. Like the last fight where the Marine Glass, right?
He's the captain, yeah.
Yeah. He and the Predator take out the PredAlien. I was a little confused as to what was going on in one or two panels, but
there's one scene where there's the PredAlien and the Predator, and the Predator is there's a distance between them, and there's this thwick or something, and it's clearly something's happened, but there's distance between them, and he's not got a projectile weapon or anything. And I kept looking back to that panel.
That was the exact one I got confused by. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if that was something it was differently written and it just was misinterpreted, or I don't know.
The art is undoubtedly the weakness of this comic, which is a shame. Eric, the bit you mentioned with the aliens coming out of the sand is a visual I've always loved. It's not one we see very often. I think 3 World War used the concept when the Marines were attacking the killer predators, and there was this really cool night sequence of them like doing halo jumps from the dropships, and you had aliens coming out of the sand there. I think it works better in that one, but I think the artwork works better in that for the action stuff anyway. It is very easy to miss some of the details in this one, especially leading up to that bit of like the back tubes sort of sticking out the sand to show that they're there. But I still stand by there being some very iconic panels and moments in this run, regardless of the actual artistic quality of the interior artwork, shall we say.
I gotta say, I particularly love the panel that just shows the PredAlien head when it's hanging onto the underside of the truck as they're
The
driving
chest
away.
poster.
Yeah.
Now, I like that one as well. And of course, the moment of the light stepper with the PredAlien and glass in the middle. I think that one's a very notable one as well. But yeah, 5. When was Alien 3?
92.
2? Yeah,
92.
92. So 3 years it took them to finally flex that DNA reflex and do a PredAlien. And I really like it. I like the lead up to it because, again, this is a debut of the creature and the characters. So I think Adam sort of mentioned it earlier. Duel is about a bunch of Marines that detect a distress signal in quotation marks from Ryushi, which is, of course, the planet that AVP takes place on. And the initial sort of setup, I think Stradley does a brilliant job at this. The initial sort of lead up to it makes you think it's going to be a derelict ship, but then it's revealed to be the Predator ship. And inside
There's
they
a nice
find
wireframe derelict
yes
shot in this as well.
Although
it's very brief, but I really like that shot.
According to this comic, everybody knows about the derelict and the Nostromo's incident, which I don't think a lot of the comics tend to go down that route, but it was an interesting setup in this. And yeah, that reveal of the Predator ship stuck out of the ground, I thought was, okay, this is cool. Stradley did a fantastic job leading up to this. But yeah,
I think it looked a little too clean. It should have showed some damage on it or something. It looked like it had just sort of like the rock had grown around it.
Oh, blame Sinclair, blame Sol Torres for that one. But yeah, they come across an unconscious predator on the ship, and everybody's like, "Why is this dude here? Let's take him back. Let's take him back."
They come
And
across the skeleton first.
Yeah, they come across the dead one, and then they come
then
across the conscious one, and of course
there's a really nice line where they say these things look worse with their skin on, which is nice.
yeah. Eric, did you read this back in the day?
I don't think I did. If I did, I forgot about it. So
this
is post Alien 3 thinking, writing wise. So yeah.
I would love to know if people expected this back in the day. When there is this the PredAlien. I realise Chris Warner's got it there on the cover of, I believe, issue 2.
That's issue 2, yeah.
Yeah. So I would be very curious to know if fans back in the day would pick up issue 1 and they come across this unconscious predator on the ship, and I would love to know if they're going, he's infected. There's a PredAlien.
I think it would have been a given. From what I remember, ever since the first AVP was released, I remember there being that like letters page sort of thing about we want a PredAlien, we want one.
It might not be a debut. When did the PredAlien issue of Deadly of Species come out? There was a very different PredAlien in Deadliest of Species. This was publishing concurrently with that run, and I can't remember what month that issue would have been.
I do remember there being this thing from the fandom about what would one look like if it came out of a Predator, because it wasn't long after Alien 3 that felt like on news groups and things, that's what we had back then, and I think the Alien one still exists. There was people going, well, what would happen if it came out of a Predator? And seeing them in the comics, that was a result of the fandom clamoring for, well, that's the next logical step. That would be the cross of both things. So I think as soon as you see anything that's unconscious in a ship, is it unconscious? You're going to go, we know, we've seen aliens.
What do you think of the design, though, guys?
I really like the
liked it.
design. Yeah. I mean, the design is consistent upon with the covers to the interior of the comic, and yeah, it looks great. It reminds me a bit about the AVP 2010 design, maybe halfway from that to AVP 2's design, because it does have the shorter head a little bit. But I really dug it.
Skeletal.
Yeah,
Than the,
I love how
Requiem
spiky it
freshen.
is. Like, I think it looks great. And what are you looking for?
You've got this shadow there making it look evil. That was the fan reaction to it back then.
I got it. Okay. I think it looks a lot more like Dorman's incarnation than 2010's. I can kind of see it in the profile, that front-on profile shadow shot that Chris Warner did for the cover. But in the comic itself, I do think it looks a lot more like Dave Dorman's concept for whoever it ended up being. We never knew. We never knew which incarnation of the AVP movie that was for, though I suspect it was for Roland Emmerich. But yeah, I think it looks a lot more like Dorman's, and I like that because I think it has a bit more of a sleeker, even including the dreadlocks, a bit more of a sleeker, angular profile and body shape, and I think that works a lot more when people are forced to use the dreadlocks.
There is a shot. I was just scrolling through it. I think it's the first time you see the PredAlien attack a Marine, and it is in profile, and it does have that underbite, and you have the tail right through it. It looks just like that bit of concept art. So I don't know if they used that bit as concept art, and the artist has literally gone, okay, let's use this as a basis. Or although the legs and the limbs are a little chunkier in the actual interior of the comic. But if you go to the first Marine attack by the PredAlien, it's that profile shot it looks a lot like concept art. Everybody goes quiet as they're looking for it. It's just before they blow the landmines.
Look harder, Aaron. Look harder.
Yeah. So after he's plonked the flag down, and they go.
Yeah, when he slit somebody's neck with his tail.
Yeah, with the tail. Now look at that bit, and it looks a lot like that
concept art. Yes, it does. It does. Yes. It's the same sort of profile where
it's that underbitey. Yeah.
Well, I find it more to be the dreadlocks. Being spikes and following the flow of the shape of the head. That is why I like Dorman's depiction and this depiction a lot more than like Chet. I can't stand the dreadlocks. I mean, even Chris Warner's cover there, I don't like it breaking the flow of the profile. So that's why I always like the dreadlocks being this swept back, spiky kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it looks good. And the inclusion of the mandibles as well. I think those are acceptable traits for them to take over.
Yeah, they're not as underbitey as in the old concept art. Like these are more in proportion like you'd expect to see on something from a Predator. Yeah. Well, if you look like to my other side, with the normal alien, the normal aliens look decent as well.
Yeah. I think they're
as good as the artist for the original AVP comic, but they're quite decent. Nothing wrong with them. It's just
Yeah,
when they're in close-ups, there's this weird sort of Sam Keith chunkiness to them.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
In
suppose
some
there
of
is
the
a little
close-up
bit.
shots, there's some of the even when one's leaping to the
Well,
camera.
actually, maybe not Sam Keith. Who illustrated Harvest? I think that's more like the chunkier, muscly kind of profile that this is, rather than Sam Keith.
Was it the one with the religious guy, Magnolia, the Hellboy guy? He did that one chunky.
I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, they look
The one who
they
did
look
Hellboy.
okay. But like we've said, the artwork is, I think, the weakness of this run. Even if there are good conceptual moments in it, and there are still some genuinely nice panels and genuinely nice pieces of artwork.
And what we see here with this Predator cocooned, unfortunately, you don't see that in the actual comic. That's a really nice visual with the Predator cocoon there.
Yeah,
with all the resin, but you don't see it in the
there
actual
is no
film. He's out. And for some
there is no
reason,
hive imagery at all in this one.
yeah, the Predators. It's implied they did an SOS signal that the computer somehow interpreted it for what it was, and they take an offence to the Marines taking this cadaver. But you're left with the question: well, what, if it was offending them, why didn't they just kill it themselves before the Marines turned up? So there's a
Well, there is the bit where it shows like things can get in. Well, they talk about like things can get into the ship, but the aliens are lying in wait for when anything comes out of the ship. So maybe the Predators saw that and they knew that the aliens were kind of down there waiting for them.
Maybe.
It is an interesting the idea of predators being offended by PredAliens. I think is an interesting angle as well, because I'm sure, is that not 2010's?
Yeah, they
take
call
on
it like the abomination.
Yeah. I think
wait,
that's
didn't
cool.
Steve Perry make a big deal of that in his books?
I can't remember. I'll be
Because
honest.
with his whole, hard meat, and it's a sacrilegious thing. So.
But it's a cool thought. But then again, also it being a thought of, we don't want to let the PredAlien get out and run rampage. It makes sense as well. But just it being one of those, I like those little offhand comments that can make you think and make you spin out these kind of theories. So that was a moment that I appreciated.
What I like about that is that there is an unreliable narrator plot device in it, because it's just that character's personal theory. He's speculating. He's not saying this is what's happening. He's just saying maybe it's against their religion. He's just tossing it out there, which is nice.
Yeah, and those do make for the more interesting, I think, narrators. Because yes, the idea makes sense. Sounds perfectly reasonable to me. Like we said, later pieces of lore, 2010, obviously, do something a little bit more definitive with that concept, with that idea, but it opens up discussions, it opens up fan theories, and it makes sense within the context of what's going off. And so it's interesting. I like that kind of thing. I loved the big ass Predator cannon.
Yeah,
the anti-air,
shoulder mounted. Well, I didn't get the moment before that. Why did the Marine like unplug something so they couldn't contact the dropship?
It was an accident. He tripped.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a little confusing as well.
So there's 2 points here where Marines trip over.
I was like, is he trying to sabotage this or what's going on? But
no, because he'd said the commander had said, just leave the ship. We're going, and then the guy tripped up over it because it wasn't.
Yeah,
all
I didn't get
away.
it was just a trip, but. Yeah, just that big ass shoulder mounted Predator gun. I was like, oh hell yeah! Like we need to see that on screen sometime or in a game.
But see, this is what I meant. This is a part where it gets a little bit G.I. Joe-ish. There's
but
no
it totally
reason
makes sense for them to have some high duty.
They could have taken out that ship with their normal shoulder cannons. Like they didn't need.
It wasn't a drop ship though.
Like
this was a smaller, but larger size sort of scout ship. It wasn't a drop ship.
I think they could have done. Like it didn't feel like they needed that. It felt very.
I mean, Predators seem like they would appreciate overkill.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Maybe, yeah.
But I think this is the only time anything of that scale has ever shown up. I can't recall any other
See, for
shoulder-mounted
me,
anti-air or
yeah,
anti-spaceship
for
artillery.
me, it went against the Predator philosophy. At least we've seen it up to them, where they like to be agile, they like to be hands-free. And as soon as I saw that, I thought they're carrying this great big car-sized thing around with them all the time. I'd have liked to see them do something different. Like we saw them in the previous AVP thing. They had like a robotic drone that they used to seed the eggs on planets. It'd have been nice if it was like some kind of vehicle or stuff that they're not weighed down by carrying like a big camper van on their shoulder.
I like to
So that's
imagine.
why it's for me.
I like to imagine they got it from the ship after all the aliens had been, because they got stuck in
Oh,
with the
like
aliens.
salvaged, yeah.
Yeah, and I also
That
this
would have worked.
Duel came out after part 1 of War came out. So part 1 of War, made a significant deal about it being, this is not a hunt. This is something different. There are no rules of honor and code and all that kind of bullshit going off here. So, when that came out, it showed us this different aspect of the Predators. That
I
isn't
think
always
this,
about the hunt. So it
I
kind
think
of
this bazooka thing is as close as we've ever got to the Kenner action figure stuff, that aesthetic being in the comics. It's totally what you would have expected to see included with Kenner figures. It would have fitted them perfectly, everything about that big. It's like a mortar.
maybe something a little more scaled down, but just the
No,
concept
Kenner
again.
was all about that kind of
No,
thing.
I
He
mean,
was
as
totally-
a something serious, as something genuinely
Yeah.
to revisit. Maybe scale it down a little bit, but like
Yeah.
the design language and the intent of it, I
different
think is
thing.
brilliant. Yeah.
So,
Them revisiting Ryushi. I made a thing about really liking the continuity that Stradley put throughout his AVP stories. How did you guys feel about them going back, coming across Machiko's empty cabin?
that's what I liked about it. We got to see Machiko's homestead thing, and I don't know because I haven't checked, but it looked like a pretty much match.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. Yeah,
The
he
one
did.
it was in the
The
original
only
comic.
thing that I was questioning, and I honestly don't remember if this was answered in a previous story, is that I remember there being the Queen's head on the outside of it. And
Well, she took it with her,
wasn't
didn't she?
there.
Yeah,
Did
she
she?
she takes it with her because it's in her quarters on
Right.
the
That
on
makes
Top
sense then,
Knot's
yeah.
ship. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only
Although,
thing. But aside from that, I liked seeing Machiko's little home.
and
We
I
didn't
liked
see
seeing
her rhino. What were they called? Rinth.
Rinth.
So she had one with a
Yeah.
saddle, and she said, "Go." Oh no, wasn't that?
Well, she
that
told
got
it
attacked by
to.
face huggers, didn't it? Yeah.
No, she let it loose at the end of AVP.
I thought that was
Wait.
the one that got chest bursted in that one.
No, she
No?
has a Rinth. She ends AVP with a Rinth, but then when Top Knot shows up and she intends to go and join them, she does the old Yeller thing of taking its all its bits off and slapping it on the arse,
there is a
telling it to
Rinth
go away.
that gets chest bursted. I assumed it was that one because they aren't native to the planet, so I assumed it was hers.
I don't think that's what happened to Old Yeller, Aaron.
Well, isn't is it not? Is it not Old Yeller where he's like
Old
go
Yeller
up, get?
was taken behind the shed.
Oh, what am I
Famous
thinking
big
of? Where
eyes.
he's like go get go?
I don't know, but yeah, I get what you mean.
Every Hollywood film ever.
Yeah.
No,
She
this
tells
is
it to
going to
go
piss
her
me
eyes.
off. This
Like, what is that from now?
Continue.
I
yeah, I know,
assume that was that one, but yeah, we didn't see that at the homestead, but it was nice to see Machiko's old.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in what the fuck happened to that Labrador.
Yeah,
Right? But I mean, it was still at the house, right? It didn't get away with the kids, so.
Well, no, she has it at the end of AVP.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she does have that there too.
Because I think
that thing wouldn't survive on the planet, so hopefully she told somebody to pick him up.
Maybe
it was with it was with her. It was with her when Top Knot showed up
at the end. Oh, okay. Maybe they're
At
like,
least at the
okay, but
start of the
that's for
comic.
dinner.
Yeah,
You
right.
know?
The one where she's sort of like crouching with a knife in her hand. I think it's.
Well, no, like at the start of that epilogue, that's
It's at the start for sure. Yeah.
it's at the start of the epilogue where you see her outside of the homestead with
Mm.
the Rinth and the dog.
Maybe it's like
Yeah,
the canine
a good
version of
question.
Jones, and it's still alive somehow, and it's outlived everything.
But yeah, I thought Ryushi, however you say it, was a great setting to come back to and to see like, oh, Machiko did leave, which kind of sets up war, because that hadn't come out yet at this point.
It's acknowledging her in the comic.
Yeah.
It's making a point. She's gone. That's the purpose
Yeah,
of it.
but the planet has always had a really cool look about it. I just love the desert biome for the series. It's something we haven't really seen on screen, with AVP or Predator. And so whenever I see it in the expanded universe, like in the comics, like Sandtrap or like here, I just think it's a really cool setting that I would like to see on screen someday. But yeah, the planet it's got that old west kind of rancher feel to it, and it was cool to come back to it. I like how they had talked about it a little bit, like, oh, they had attempted to settle it, but something happened, but yeah, it's a great setting, I think.
There's one thing missing from it because I assumed the moment you see on a screen and you see Prosperity Wells, because that's the old colony, and they talk about it and they say, well, we don't know what happened, but it's, they're using it as a defensive position. I thought, oh, that's interesting because the aliens were nesting there. What if they get to it and we see some scenes of them, when the inevitable happens, because it's going to happen. What if they say, oh, we'd like to have it to our backs, nothing can get to us, they have to come to it from front. What if you start to see some aliens slithering through the wreckage, outflanking them? And I thought that's a great setup. And it never happens. Nothing comes through the wreckage.
It's just the
just like
PredAlien
this.
that's stowed away.
Well,
You just see the wreckage of Prosperity Wells, and that's it.
It kind of fly in the face of the sacrifice of Scott Conover and Tom what's his face. And
yeah, but we already know there are aliens there, so it makes
but the aliens have come there. The aliens have come from. Well, I suppose, yeah, I guess
it would have been
if they'd migrated from the Predator ship.
Yeah, it would have been nice for them to have used that because they said, "Oh, this is going to be a safe location." Okay, so it's red flagging. That's going to be a perfect thing to set some outflanking things.
It's already a red flag anyway because the alien was there with them all along. So, I mean, you've already got your misdirect there anyway.
Yeah, it just would have been nice. I would have liked it, and it just felt like
they could have gone like Colonial Marines, where it's like, well, the nuclear explosion didn't damage it that much.
I mean, to be fair, it looks good to say it had a spaceship crash on it. I would have expected more of a crater, but no, I did think it was a nice visual. And White Fang is the film I'm thinking of, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We don't know. There might have been sub levels and stuff like that, so that they could have used it. And at this point, they didn't. It's just a big old wreck.
So character-wise, I do agree in that nobody really stands out in it apart from the captain, the survivor, Captain Glass, who, to be fair, I think is a bit of a prick. Is a bit of a prick for the first chunk of the comic.
I mean, yeah, well, during the briefing bits maybe, but after that, it was weird because he seemed more chill. But during the briefing bits, yeah, thinking back on it. But
then again, a lot of the things that go wrong are because of him,
and he kind of admits that with his inner monologue too. It's like mistake, bad decision. And you're right. I mean, most of the Marines just start getting killed off one after the other, and we don't have much characterization beyond him. He's the focus, but I still really enjoyed the banter between the human characters. I thought that was well done.
I thought Lesser was originally in command, and then it goes to Glass because he.
No, Glass is the captain. I think Lesser was the sergeant.
Okay.
Although, to be fair, a captain in charge of such a small squad, I think, was maybe one of those comic-y kind of aspects of it. Probably should have been a lieutenant or something. But the end. Should we talk about that end?
Yes. I love
Go on,
the
Adam.
ending.
It sounded like you had something you really wanted to get
The
into.
ending really reminded me of John Carpenter's The Thing, since I have seen
Yeah.
that again recently in theaters. But it's the whole like, man, we just been through hell. Let's just sit down and see what happens, you know. So I really liked that vibe. And yeah, these two had fought. They had each killed each other's people, you know, but it took both of them to defeat this PredAlien. And at that moment, they're like, well, we're not in a state to fight each other, so we'll just see whose people show up first, you know. But and then later in war, one of the catalysts for Machiko kind of eventually turning against the Predator clan she's with is seeing this captain's bandana on the wrist of Lightstepper, and when she questions it, he whacks her away. Um, so there's some fan interpretation. It's like, well, Predator's people showed up and he killed him. But I don't know. You know me. I like the team ups. Like I like to think maybe he saw that the Predator's bandage could use a new one, so he bandaged it up while they were waiting, and then they let him go. Like that's my headcanon about it.
I
But
mean, it's not outside the realms of possibility that yes, it was a gift from Glass
Come
to
here, little
Lightstepper.
buddy. Let me do it up.
And I kind of feel like that team up felt natural in this. You know, again, despite the each other fucking each other over enough throughout the comic. You know, like Adam said, Glass in his narration makes a point of talking about decisions and mistakes and correct choices and stuff like that. And as it sort of led up to the final battle with the PredAlien in this one, you know, Glass is going, I don't know why I made this choice, but it was, you know, it was the right choice at the end of it. And I liked all the lead up to that, because the questioning of choices and the importance of choices leading up to him deciding at this moment that yes, I'm going to assist the Predator. Not that he really does much. What does he do? He sort of like butts the
Slaps it
alien
over
with the
the
back
head.
of his
well,
rifle.
yeah,
Yeah.
this was the confusing part. He does. I mean, the PredAlien has Lightstepper pinned, and he hits it with his rifle, which distracts the PredAlien, so they can both attack it. But yeah, you actually do see him charge the PredAlien with a knife. So he stabs it from the front, and then Lightstepper stabs it from behind.
And it seemed like Lightstepper had also sliced his neck, if I remember rightly.
Something, yeah. The alien blood at no point is acidic throughout any of this story.
Shh, we don't talk about that. We don't. The acid blood is only as good as the narrative needs it to be.
Yeah. But I just love that visual of the ending with the stars in the sky, and they're
Them
just
just sat
sitting
there.
and waiting. I'm
Yeah,
like, perfect. That's a great ending.
it was. It really was.
Like if they were to do, I know I keep like, do this, guys, do this, but if they were to do an AVP animated anthology series, this would be a great story for it. Like this story has staying power, I thought. So it would be nice to see it retold.
It was also nice to have a comic story where the Marines just aren't just being, you know, thuggish Marines. Like the Predator intervenes and one of them's about to kill it, and the other guy said, "No, no, hold on." And they understand you got to be diplomatic at this point. Although at that point, the Predator goes and kills them anyway.
Yeah, they
instead
attempt to
of
be.
just
There's
signaling for the cadaver of its fallen
yeah,
comrade,
there's a moment
which doesn't
where
quite.
the Predator's approaching them. They're like, "Be cool. Hey, we heard your
Yeah.
distress signal. We're here to help you out." And the Predator just stabs the Marine in front of him. But they
that's
do make a
this
point of that
Predator.
later. They're like, "Were they just trying to stop us from taking their infected, you know, comrade away?" So
You'd think it would just be able to like point at that and use hand signals like you do in the films. But it just decides, no, you're going to pay for this with your lives too. And then, but at the end, they're doing the sort of enemy mine thing right at the end. So it's a bit of a passive aggressive Predator. But yeah, it's that bit of it was interesting to see, because it's like you always see Wayland Yutani executives just go, "Hear them," and you had that nice turnaround in what we mentioned earlier, the recent game Dark Descent, where it's a Wayland Yutani executive, but she's just a person, she's not Burke. And it was refreshing, and here it was refreshing to see people, not just going, there's a target, I'm going to shoot. The one thing I didn't like was that every minute they were constantly talking about bugs. And I mean, I've mentioned it before. I don't like that thing in fandom where they assume bug hunt meant the alien. It means something else. It's a real military term. But here, they've only just, they're only just meant to have found out about the alien, and yet they're all the time they're just calling them bugs. And it got a bit.
I kind of liked
What
how,
other name?
honestly, I kind of liked how that was handled, because they do bring up like they had heard what happened on Akron, and eventually Weyland-Yutani, like what they knew had to go public. And so this would be dramatic information to be, become known among humans. And so it was interesting to see how some Marines would get panicked and not follow orders because of the bugs. And the bugs could have like taken on a new meaning, because yes, before Akron, the bug hunt meant just like wiping out, non-threatening indigenous life or whatever. But I mean, that is so tied to Alien that you could kind of see it becoming connected more towards the xenomorphs, I guess, after that.
Within this comic, that's weird. It's a weird context which doesn't apply. I mean, firstly, the real term means going around a civilian settlement asking for information on an enemy VIP, like Saddam Hussein. That's how they got him. But when at the start of it, they say, "Oh, there's a signal. There's an SOS." So it's clearly technology, and they say, "Oh, it's XTs," which is a nice callback to what they used in the first AVP comic. And they said, "Oh, that means bugs." So if they're using bugs for the alien, they know they don't use technology. So they're saying, "Oh, that means bugs. It's a signal." So it's a weird kind of thing. They're calling bugs. It's like savages coming towards us, and yet bugs also means any alien. It's a weird thing. I just would have liked them to use some variation in language. It's just that they kept on using the same thing.
I mean, even in Alien 3, there's like the moment where it's like, I hate bugs with with the xenomorph. So like they've become connected after that.
They didn't know about the alien.
That's true. But
it's an unfortunately part of the lexicon of fandom, and it has been obviously since the 90s, especially at this point.
This was kind of at that time where it started to get going.
Fair enough. Sorry, I've been distracted, Adam. You'll see why I've been distracted.
I know.
You've seen it. Yeah, okay.
We have somebody who wants to distract us right now, but
with some very cool
some very distracting things. But was this ever released in paperback, this 2-issue, or was it only collected in the omnibus?
No, it got its own. I think it got its own collection. Let's have a quick look on Xenopedia. See what they say there. Aliens vs Predator Duel was first collected with other stories in the trade paperback release of War in May of 1996. The story was collected again as part of the omnibus, which Adam and I read, and would have been a part of
Essentials Volume 2.
Essentials Volume 2 had it come out.
I didn't know it came out in the War paperback. I don't think I have that.
No, I don't have the old one. A lot, to be fair, I got rid of a lot of my old comics a long time ago, unfortunately, and it's one of those things I regret and hate.
On that same section, just below where it says reprint history, where it says trivia, it mentions the Dalmatian, and its name is apparently called Creep.
Okay. I don't remember seeing that in there.
Presently on the Yelcher ship, leaving its fate unclear.
It's just wandering around. Look, there's what were those films where it was like the cat, the dog? Homeward Bound.
Homeward Bound. I watched those when I was a kid. Yeah.
It's just that on Ryushi with the Rinth and the dog.
Maybe
and a
all of Machiko's adventures are her hallucinations, so she just hallucinated the dog. It was just her living out her life on Ryushi.
She's got a good imagination.
On Mad, yeah. They just left her there because she's insane.
That's funny. No. Any other thoughts on Duel? Oh, I do
Well-
like the title actually, in that it's nearly also Duel, as in Alien and Predator, but it's Duel
Yes.
as in a fight.
I
Little
used to
bit
get
of wordplay.
confused about did it mean that or the other? Yeah.
Sorry,
And it
Adam,
was a
you were gonna say.
two-part issue as well.
Yes, true.
Everything's double.
But yeah, good comic. If you can find it, read it. I mean, AVP, the earlier days of the AVP comics were really popular. So if Marvel is going to do that next year, I really hope they got some good plan. But re-release the old stuff too. New colors. Come on, let's do it.
We say that every year, and every year it doesn't happen. I think Dark Horse spoiled the shit out of us with that little hardback.
Yeah, they did.
But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that kind of thing is down to not having the original inks or the original line art. I assume it's really hard to do recoloring without having that original black and white.
I don't know. I think you could probably do it with digital technology, even if you haven't got. The
Yeah, but Dark Horse Digital, was not good. I don't know how significantly better it would be nowadays, but yeah, I've never liked the Dark Horse Digital recolors that they did.
You had panel to panel, right, Aaron?
Yes, I've got panel to panel.
They had a good spread of that artwork in there featured. Man, that was a good book. Panel to panel, just focusing on like the cover art. I wish they would do that more.
Well, it wasn't even just the cover art, because there was like original pieces or expanded pieces. From there's one of Broken Tusk climbing that antenna that I think is an original piece for panel to panel, but obviously inspired by, because obviously it happened in the story. But yeah, that was.
I think that was a cover. That was one of the covers, because it was like a 6-issue thing back in the day.
I think it was 4 or 5.
That was when it did like about a quarter or a third of it was black and white before they started doing color in it. And so they did do the covers on the Dark Horse thing when it was like a monthly thing, I think it was, where they were doing this. I think that was one of them. I don't know. Somebody out there has probably collected them all still to this day.
Okay. Right. I think we're good then.
Yeah.
It's a bit of history, AVP history, if you're interested in that.
And I'm going to have to double check the dates of the issue of Deadliest of Species with the PredAlien, and just to see which came first. I'm fairly sure it was Duel came first.
Right.
But
what was it? This is March, April 95. Deadliest of Species was... Oh, right. Deadliest of Species was 93 up to 95.
It was over 2 years, yeah. And concurrently with this. I feel like this... The Duel came out before the PredAlien issues of Deadliest of Species, I think. I'm sure I had to look this up for a different article that I wrote a year or two ago, but I'm going to have to double check now, because that's going to piss me off not knowing. So check the show notes for this, or the post that this one goes up with. Cool. Adam, do you want to close us off?
Sure. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you have the time and you enjoy our podcast, we always appreciate a rating on any of the podcasting platforms, or a like on YouTube. It really helps us out. You can find us on our website, avpgalaxy.net, where we have all sorts of good stuff like discussion message boards, if you remember those, if you want to communicate with other fans, as well as interviews, editorials, and resources on the wider franchise. So be sure to check us out there. We are also on all the major socials: Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. Still getting used to all those. And if you'd like to support what we do at AVP Galaxy, check out our Patreon, which is patreon.com/AVP Galaxy, if I have that right. And to all our current patrons and supporters, we very much, again, appreciate your support. Launching that this year was a big thing for us, and the support we've gotten has been humbling. And so, again, we really appreciate that.
Indeed. Oh, I thought of something somewhere else to say then as well, and now I've completely lost it.
Get it, Aaron. Find it. Where is it?
Yes, no, I remember now.
Only cows.
And if if anybody wants to reach out, you can email us at podcast@avpgalaxy.net. We do love to hear, obviously, feedback or thoughts or any follow-ups on what we talk about in here. We very much appreciate it. We very much enjoy it, and we enjoy. Fucking hell, my brains fell out of my face today.
We enjoy
Interacting. We enjoy interacting with everybody, whether that's on the posts on the social media that you see this podcast on, or on the forum, where we post about the episodes on the forum as well. So feel free to get in touch. We love talking to the listeners out there and anybody who has anything to say or corrections to provide. If somebody wants to save me the hassle of looking up the deadliest of species thing, by all means email us and let us know. We like to read them out on other podcasts, on other episodes. So yeah, you can follow me personally on Twitter on X @ Corporal Hicks.
If you'd like to follow me personally, it's at RidgeTop21 on both X and Instagram. Eric's still not in the social media game.
No, but I'm recording stuff on my YouTube thing.
Oh, okay. So he'll have an announcement next time.
Yeah.
I'm also working on a new video. As of today, I've just about finished my first pass on the audio. I would hope this episode's either out after or just about when I'm dropping the new video and the new article. So keep an eye on the YouTube channel or avpgalaxy.net for the written version of that.
Things are being worked on. I know you're working on another thing as well that I'm helping you out with. And I
asked you about yesterday.
Yes, and I have a few articles that
I love how you said that, and Aaron's
like,
what?
I'm like, what's he doing?
No, yeah. So we got some good things coming next year. Again, it'll be a big year. But we hope everyone has a great holiday season and a great New Year's. We'll see you in the next year.
Indeed. Thank you, everybody, for listening or watching. This has been Corporal Hicks.
RidgeTop.
Xenomorphine.
Seeing whose people show up first.
Yeah. I was just going to do the AVPR thing there, but yeah, we'll see if the Predators or the Colonial Marines show up first. Happy New Year, happy holidays, everybody, and we'll see you in 2024.